Hello and welcome. Today I have Kristina Romero back with me again inside the admin bar, which is always a good day when we can chat with Kristina again. And this time we actually have something really brand new and exciting to talk to you about today. Kristina is releasing a book. She's written a book and she's here to tell us about it. And I'm super excited. Oh, look at it. It's right there. I haven't received my copy yet, but I've been promised a autographed copy. So you will see that on my bookshelf in color order soon. It should fit right about there, I'm thinking. So you'll have a nice prominent spot right on the shelf. Super excited to have you today, Kristina. How are you doing today?
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you so much. I'm really excited. I'm excited to talk to you about this because it's been sitting in my Google Drive for over 2 years. So finally completing something, which is always a good feeling.
Yes, it's going to help a lot more people out in the world as a book than in your Google Drive.
Than in my Google Drive. Yeah,
for sure.
I think so.
Well, for people who might not have seen you on the admin bar or around before, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, what led you to think you could just start being an author?
Right. Well, I'm Kristina Romero. A lot of people know me from WP Care Markets. So I talk a lot about care plans. You see me talking about recurring revenue, co-founder of the Recurring Revenue Retreat. So my whole world has been that in the last few years. Before that, I was running an agency for 11 years, WordPress development, design, that whole thing. But actually before all of that, I went to USC, University of Southern California, because some people on the East Coast think it's a different USC, for writing. I got my master's in writing and I was going to be a writer. And I had been an actress in Hollywood. Some people know that. And I was like, I'll take a different path. I'll be a writer. And then I realized it's just as hard. So while I was at USC, I started building websites for my professors. That's how I started building websites. So I learned, we learned nonfiction writing, technical writing, screenwriting, that whole thing. And I wrote a whole bunch of stories that are also sitting in my Google Drive. And yeah, so I got started with websites because I was like, writing is not a big revenue generator. And that's how it all started. So I do write, and I've published a children's book. I've published a Bible study. This is my passion, is writing on the side. But I never did anything for this space besides blog posts. Obviously, I have a lot of blog posts out there. And so this started with, funny enough, Mike Killen and his voracious publishing of his stuff. And he put out a book writing workshop. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this. And I sat with Mike and a few others on a workshop for 5 days, planning out a book and helping with the structure of the book. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is actually something. It's pretty good. And so that was over 2 years ago. That was over 2 years ago, because the whole idea was, as I wrote these thoughts, which we'll talk about in a minute, onto paper about how I see recurring revenue really working well in an online small business, I was like, this is what worked for me. And it worked for me, but is it going to work for someone else? And I wanted time. I wanted time to see if these principles worked. And I've been teaching in our core agency club, we call it. It's like a coaching program. Been teaching these principles for 2 years. So it worked. People implemented, they saw an increase in revenue, and I was like, good. All right. Now I feel confident to edit this thing and get it out. So that's where we are.
Well, that's super exciting. And obviously I'm a student of your courses and I've recommended them tons of times. I'll do it again right here. I'm sure we'll put links wherever you're seeing this video. You can sign up for all that kind of stuff, because honestly, I don't know if I could do this business or survive the 5.5 years I have without recurring revenue, right? I just left last week for a week and was gone, and I could do that. It wasn't always easy when you're solo, but it was a whole lot easier because I knew I had recurring revenue. I wasn't surviving off project to project, and I could take a little time away. So it's obviously huge. So
that's
I think
amazing.
when we talk about
celebrate when people say that. I'm like, yes, they got a vacation.
Yeah. Well, when we talk about recurring revenue, especially with the web agencies, it's basically care plans is the big thing. Obviously, you want to get web builds onto care plans. And then after that, there's kind of a few random things people do. But I think for a lot of people, they sell a client a care plan, and then they just kind of hope that stays forever. But from what you're explaining to me in your book, what you're talking about is ways to nurture that relationship. So tell us a little bit about, what went into this and what you're trying to teach people with the book.
Awesome. Yeah. So that's it, right? Care plans are the easiest way we implement recurring revenue. We get that predictable revenue stream become a little bit more resilient in times of trouble, or like you said, going on vacation. I see a tendency of web agencies to they kind of do one of two things. They're like, great, okay, care plans are done. And then I just need to funnel more people into my care plans. And they have that mentality, lead gen, funnel into care plans. And then I'm good. I just need more care plans. And then you see the opposite too of also, they're like, I just need care plans. Like, I don't want to do anything else but care plans. And they kind of step back from any type of relationship with clients. When I went to sell my agency, I went back through all my clients and everything I was doing. And that's where this idea of realizing, oh my gosh, this whole time for the last 5-6 years of the end tail of my agency, I was nurturing clients with this philosophy, with this system. Like, it wasn't just care plans. It was taking the care plan as the entry into the relationship. And then really looking at it as, how can I optimize them? How can I get them to that goal? And those optimized products are your additional recurring revenue. There's additional recurring revenue laying right on the table for most people who have care plan clients. Not all your care plan clients, but a segment of those care plan clients. And then you have the redesign revenue of just a continual growth of their website. And then you have to evaluate that. So there's this little system I call core, which is care, optimize, redesign, and evolve. And that's what I get into with the book, because it's what I realized I was doing when I sold my agency. I was like, oh, this is what I was doing. This is how I created the value that actually made it worth something to sell. I was handing over really good clients to the person that I was selling to. So that's where I realized, or kind of saw it in there. And then I hear it constantly when I'm talking to agency owners, and they are obsessed with lead generation. And it was an aha moment for me. It's the first story in the book, is when I got this opportunity to chat with Seth Godin, the guru Seth Godin. I had this, shout out to Troy Dean. He arranged it as like a coaching session. And I was pregnant at the time, about to take a maternity leave. And I even had a whole bunch of family over, because I think it was like Labor Day or Memorial Day or something like that. So I told them, like, get out of the house, actually to physically be out of the house so I could do this call. And it was an aha moment for me, because I was talking to him about my agency and how I wanted to completely pivot away into a completely different target market to make a whole bunch of revenue. And I was pitching him this idea of what I was going to do. And he just kind of looked at me and he was like, no, like, in so few words, he was like, that's a stupid idea. and people can still watch that video. It is online. And he was like,
that's why people like him get paid the big bucks, though, because they'll straight up tell you, no, that's stupid.
Stupid.
Yeah.
And he was like, you have clients right now, right? And I was like, yeah. He's like, why don't you just give them more of what they need? And it was like, wow, like aha moment. So I came back from that maternity leave in 2015, and I was like, all right, let's go. And that was the last 5 to 6 years of my agency. I just kind of turned inward to that client list, made this work. And that's kind of all I needed. It's funny when looking at your survey for the web agencies and seeing majority of people are referrals. Like, that's fine. You can run an entire business off of just referrals if you are nurturing your client list and taking advantage of all that low-hanging fruit in front of you. So it feeds right into what we kind of are already doing as small web agency owners. It's just, I don't think people have put like names to it, a system to it, and kind of given it that view, Yeah.
And I'm sitting here thinking of like some of my care plan clients, and I want to say, with a few of these people, I am doing some good things like this. And with a lot of them, I'm not. Like, it's kind of on autopilot. They pay the bill. I keep the stuff updated. I don't ask them anything. They don't ask me anything, but those clients where we do have more of an ongoing relationship, I invoice them a lot more because they ask for a lot more work and have new projects and new things to work on. And there's obviously, it's much cheaper to sell to existing clients than try to acquire new ones. And we all get stuck in that rat race,
Yeah, exactly. And as you put it, you're always going to have a segment of clients that are going to be that what I call the revenue relationship, that like perfect marriage in the sense that they're investing in you because they're paying you, but you're investing in them because you're actually paying attention to their business, their website, the growth opportunities that they have. And to have the right balance of those clients is everything. You don't even need a whole bunch of them to make a good 6-figure salary a year, right? In your agency. And so the concept behind the revenue relationship is anyone who fears AI doesn't understand what their superpower is, because your ability to actually connect with your client and have that relationship and be invested in them is everything that a huge segment of anyone who needs a website is looking for. I mean, there are going to be those people that are budget conscious and want whatever they want, or high enterprise level, but there's a sweet spot of majority of business owners out there who we serve best. And so I think if anything, even for people who are doing care plans and doing this, of what I'm talking about, just reading this book is a nice way to reframe what your superpower is and why you don't have to fear any of this emerging technology, and where to lean in when it comes to these conversations so that you can build a very resilient business post-pandemic, post-new pandemic, pre-new pandemic, recession, depression, fallout, whatever, AI, whatever it is, you can build a resilient business. So you don't really need to worry too much about that.
Yeah, this is completely unrelated, but it's fresh on my mind. We're in the process of moving, and we had to hire realtors to help us find a house. I could look up everything I need to know to not even have a realtor, or to sell my house without a realtor. But I wasn't hiring them because they knew the nuts and bolts of how to sell or buy a house. I was hiring them because I have questions about this. I need their advice. I need their help. I need their strategy. I need their experience. And that's why customers hire us to build a website. Sure, they can go to Wix or Squarespace if that's what they want to do. But the people that hire us to do it, they're not hiring us because we can push the buttons. They're hiring us because we have the experience and knowledge and can help them in other ways. And at least so far, our AI overlords haven't quite figured that one out.
Is that exactly right? And there's a advantage too. Like, so with the realtor in your situation, there's personal gain. It's not really a business thing, right? You're trying to sell your house. I mean, it could help your business in the sense that you're not taking away time from your business to figure out how to sell your house. So there is that. But I talk about the revenue relationship of how we need to work with people who own businesses when we're doing websites, because there's so much revenue that you can help them earn, and then in return them paying you for that. So I think people kind of miss that when they're talking about like ideal clients and who they should work with and their niche, that when we do work with business owners and people who are making revenue in some way off their website, with even just service-based, getting calls and taking clients, not just products, we have better opportunities. And so a lot of people will be like, gosh, I don't understand, my care plans, aren't working when signing up for them. A lot of times I don't think people realize what kind of clients they're attracting or who they're working with. And that this also helps you reframe that. So.
Yeah. And clients don't know what they don't know, right? So they might not be hiring you to do a lot of things you could do for them because they don't even know the possibility, right? And I guess obviously if you can educate them on those possibilities and other ways you can help them, it's going to help your bank account eventually, but you have to have a relationship to be able to do that.
Yeah, right. And even for the people who are kind of shy or don't, like, I think I saw a post in your Facebook group, I think, about someone who didn't want to get on the phone. I never wanted to I'm not a shy person, and I never want to get on the phone. You never get on the phone. I don't ever want to get on the phone. So it's not about being an extrovert. Not at all, right? Like, having a relationship with your clients is not about being an extrovert. You can fully be an introvert. This book also gives you strategies for what that looks like. So what does touch points look like, or being engaged look like? That it doesn't mean that you're going out and you're like hanging out with them. There's healthy boundaries to it.
Yeah, I'm definitely not doing that. I don't want to pick up the phone. I certainly don't want to go hang out. No. So I wonder, obviously basically every book you see behind me is something I bought to help my business. I don't know, there's 30 or 40 there. And I can probably tell you there's 2 or 3 there of things I remember from these books, right? And I think a lot of that is because we'll read something, but we don't we don't go action it, right? We get the information in, but we never do anything about it. So I know you were telling me you have some plans on how to make implementation a big part of taking part in reading this book.
Yeah. I mean, this book isn't like, I'm not looking to make money off this book, right? It's Amazon, it's out there. It'll get what I think will help people out there. That's the whole, I mean, I've been in this for a while now, right? I mean, it's like, I'm trying to get what's in my head communicated as clearly as possible, because it's like all in my head. And sometimes I hear people say things, I'm like, oh, they don't understand. How, if only they understood, if only they saw it my way. And I'm, I have to humble myself sometimes. So I'm like, it's not always my way that works. So what I hate even more than that is people getting it, but not being able to implement it. That is the worst, because then they're just frustrated, and then they're living with like more stress than they need, because they know what they want to do, but they can't do it. So I have workshops I'm going to do on a recurring basis. The workshops are in May for the first one, to help actually implement. At the end of this book is what I call action plans. We have two types of action plans: actually getting your business ready for recurring revenue, what that looks like, what your role is, how you need to define your processes, all of that. And that's core calibration. So you're calibrating your business. So there's a workshop for that, for people who need to implement that. The action plan is in the book. You don't need to come to a workshop. The worksheets are downloads, so people can do it on their own. And then there's also a workshop on creating the revenue piece. So, what do the care plans look like? What do the optimizations look like? What do redesigns look like? What does that evolve stage look like? And implementing that. So it's a Zoom meeting. It's not even a webinar style. It's a Zoom meeting. Everyone's can show their camera or not. It's up to you. Raise your hand, talk. We work through it together, because it's hard. Like, I love Mike Michalowicz, right? I love his books, and he writes in such an engaging way. It's really easy. But when it came to Profit First, it was really hard at some point for me to understand how I was supposed to implement this. And I probably only implemented it about 20 to 30%. Like, so I'm probably not even doing like exactly, I'm probably shooting myself in the foot in that way. And I'm sure he probably has ways you can go places and figure it out. But I wanted to make that available. So that's a big piece as well. People can read the book, do it on their own. It's little to no investment to do that. But those who are like, no, this resonates with me, I get it, and I want to be motivated to actually apply it, I encourage them to try to get on one of the live workshops. And I'm not recording them and putting them up as a course, because the whole point is the feedback, the actual real question and the feedback. So I'll just be continually doing these live workshops.
Yeah, and I can't. Profit First is a great example, but when you go through a book and it all sounds good in theory, but then you get out your pen and your paper and you're sitting at your desk and you're like, okay, wait, I wish I could ask about 15 questions right now to get me going in the right place. And it's awesome that, we'll be able to do that with your book as well. So a couple more questions for you. One is, I guess there's all kinds of different agencies, as we've seen from the survey, and you've been around our community and stuff like that. What is the right ideal person situation for somebody that you think should be looking at picking up your book?
Okay. So I think everyone who builds websites will get something out of this in some way. If you have care plans and you're doing great, you probably will pick up some pieces. You're like, I never thought about it that way. Okay. Oh, this is why that works. Kind of getting clarity on that. So there's that. But I think for anyone who's in a position, whether they're a freelancer or they run an agency, where they feel a bit overwhelmed with lead generation, and they have a pretty decent client list, this is perfect. I mean, this will help take that burden off of you and focus on just way more predictable revenue and who you have in your client list. It probably is also good for people who are kind of starting out, because it lets you do things the right way before you do things the wrong way and then have to redesign what you've done. So it kind of hits in different areas. I try to write it like I'm going to write it general for like anyone who is a service-based business. But I couldn't get away from the fact that I only know this in the lens of a web agency or a web freelancer who's doing care products and different things like that. However, there is some principles here which we could help our clients. So if you work with service-based businesses, you could read this book and then end up being almost like a consultant in helping to implement this strategy. I call it the core methodology in their business, helping them set up recurring revenue products, helping them optimize, helping them do that with their clients and customers. So there's some opportunity there for that. I realized I couldn't make it too general because then I was getting away from speaking to who I wanted to speak to, people like us, you know? So I think all in all, someone will get something from it all around. But in general, if anyone who feels stressed, like they're kind of getting a little burned out and they need more predictable revenue, they feel like they were kind of affected pretty strongly by the pandemic or loss of work, is really going to benefit from this to try to build more of a resilient business.
Yeah, and that's such a huge piece of this too. I think so many of us, we hear what care plans, we start this business, we hear what care plans are, we kind of look at other people's website and make up, a few decisions on how we'll do things, right? And we've kind of pieced this together. And I know I can look back at some of my legacy care plans who've been with me a really long time and say, man, I didn't set up real great systems with them. And then it gets a little bit better. And then the newest ones, those are the best care plans I have because I've built a better process for them,
Yeah.
And I think, so if you are at that like foundational level, starting out on the right foot will certainly save you a lot. And then even when you started talking about selling your agency and you did the course on that, and we talked to Hans and we talked to another guy who's buys agencies, that was never like my plan in starting an agency. Is like, oh, one day I'll sell this and I'll go retire in the mountains. But one day I won't do this anymore. So I might as well set up the kind of agency that I could sell. I'd rather have this asset than just tell my clients I'm closing shop, right? And a huge part of being able to do that is to have all these systems in place and to have the kind of clients that are coming back to you for more and more things. It just makes you so much more attractive. So I think I've tried to think about that more, even though I have no active plans to sell. One day the agency will end.
Yeah. There's also a moment, if you were looking at your business in that way, just as like an exercise, where you're like, I would never give this client to anybody. Why am I still working with that person? So, there's a little bit of that of I think in a fruitful exercise for trying it out for everybody to be like, if I were to sell, like, one, how much is it worth? Where would they make more money? Like, where is there like low hanging fruit for them to make more money? And also, like, these clients over here, like, they're horrible. I don't want them. I don't want to deal with them anymore. So there is that, right? So I think it's a healthy exercise for everybody to go through, even if they're never planning on selling. And we also talked in a group the other day about, I've kind of shared this online, and I know you know this, but in August of last year, my son had a catastrophic health failure, where he was immediately in a hospital, and I had to be a caregiver. Like, my entire day was a caregiver. I couldn't do work. I couldn't do anything. And that lasted for 3 months before I got any kind of breath. If my business is set up in a way that someone could step in and help me, those situations aren't as dire. You can take the time off and, take care, even if you're hit by a bus, right? Or you're in a hospital, right? You're not leaving your significant other or anyone else in a bad situation to come in and help you with your business. So again, this book helps with that, getting more of a process, a system, predictable revenue that you can prepare for those life moments. And it's not as drastic on the business side as it is.
They rarely come with a warning,
Nope.
It's always one of those hindsight type things,
Yeah. So
all
true.
right. So let's say we'll just use me as an example. I know him the best. All right. I have 50-ish care plans. Some of them I've done a good job with. Some of them I haven't. Some of them are on autopilot. Some of them I have to I nurture a little bit more. So I have a mixed bag here. I go through, I read your book. What am I going to be coming out with on the other side?
First of all, funny enough, 50 is a very common number for someone who's like a single person running an agency. I feel like that's the threshold number to where you have to then start bringing on people. When you kind of go over that, you have to start growing and like maybe bringing in another person. That is a magic number. So if anyone's kind of thinking like, how many should I have? like you in your position, I'm like, that's the golden number, 50. And then you'll probably add on, a few over time, and whatever. You'll probably reach a tipping point. I don't know. But what you'll end up seeing is you'll be able to first take a look at your business and see if you are really kind of calibrated for the revenue relationship. What does it look like in your business? What processes encourage it? Whether your onboarding process, your offboarding process, do they encourage that ongoing relationship? Are you doing a good job setting boundaries? Are you doing a good job being a better boss to yourself and that your role is what it is? Are you at a point that you do need to bring on people to help, whether it's outsourcing or subcontracting, So you'll get that first before you then pivot to, okay, your business is in the right place. You have these care plans. Let's talk about your clients and what their needs and goals are. And then off those needs and goals, are there common SMART goals that you could actually create optimized products to serve them? And that's going to get you going, like, okay, wait a minute. Like I could be making a few extra $1,000s a month here. And then we talk a little bit about where you are in terms of, which I think is something you and I have had conversation on, like reports and analytics and dashboards for your clients. Like, how are you helping them grow as a business to where their growth is contributing to revenue growth for you? And so it might challenge you a bit there, because I know we've talked a lot about that. And there is a falling off point, because you don't have to. You make probably a good enough income off of what you're doing now that you probably have a falling off point, right? Off of those care plans and those web projects that are coming in. So the question you'll probably be challenged with is like, wait a minute, if I don't fall off and I actually continue this into a cycle of where I'm cycling my clients through here, could I actually make an extra like 5 to 10 grand a month here that I'm not doing just by this little extra more I could be doing? So I'm interested to see.
That's a crazy amount too. When you say, $5,000 more, I'm not saying you guarantee $5,000 more in revenue as soon as you finish the book, but that would make a difference in my family's life. That's that kind of.
Okay. That's our goal for you. So I want you to read the book with that in mind, of trying to find an extra $5,000 a month.
Well, if you start seeing everything gold plated behind me, you'll know that it works.
I'm sure your family will find a way to spend it. It will not find its way in gold plating behind.
It just goes, I just might get better tacos. I might move up from Taco Bell to something a little bit nicer.
Oh yes. Maybe you'll have your own taco truck as a side hustle.
My kitchen is turning into a taco truck.
Yeah. Like a side window, people come drive through your house.
Oh no, it's just for me. It's just my taco truck. All right. So behind the curtain a little bit, we are recording this a little bit early, but the book drops on March 22nd. That's correct, right?
Yeah. Here, this is my not for resale copy.
Nice.
But it's a really quick read. It's 130 pages, pretty much. Super fast read. It'll be on Kindle ebook, so people can get it there and just read it right away, or you can get the paperback. Like I said, revenuerelationship.com is like the website where you can download an excerpt from it. And you can also download the worksheets without getting the book. So you might as well take a peek at the excerpt of the first 2 chapters and worksheets. If you're like kind of on the, like, I don't know if this is going to help me or not, you could do that at the revenuerelationship.com. And then of course the workshops, should anyone be interested, it is at wpcaremarket.com. So Perfect. It should be fun to see the community and what they think and the feedback. Let's hope it's good feedback and not 1 star on Amazon feedback.
I will leave an honest review. I will guarantee
that. That's all I ask.
Okay.
Or otherwise Amazon, I get in trouble.
Right. What about, I know we'll get this question. What about for those who don't like to read, but prefer audiobooks? Is that going to be?
It's a great question. There is an audiobook. So it will be on Audible. I'm so excited to say. My sister is a professional voiceover artist, and she is putting the Audible book together for me. So it'll be her voice, which is kind of fun. So that will be probably like a couple weeks after it's published. But that will come, and I will let people know.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you coming here and sharing all this. I'm excited to get my hands on it and read through it and see how this helps. Obviously, anything you do, I'm in. You've already sold me, so no problem there. And I'll make sure any of the links we discussed in this call too, those will be wherever this video's at. They'll be somewhere near it, so you can find all that. And Kristina's around inside the admin bar too, so if you have questions, you can ping her on there. So. Well, congratulations. I'm looking forward to it. Best of luck with it. And I can't wait to see where it goes and catch you on your speaking tour, after this.
Right. Yeah. My speaking tour will be like the recurring revenue retreat.
Okay. Well,
but I appreciate that, Kyle. I thank you so much for your amazing support over everything that I've done and your friendship as well. So thank you so much.
Well, fantastic. All right. Well, if y'all have any questions, just drop a comment in here and we'll get those answered for you. And I look forward to seeing my copy in the mail soon.
Yeah.
All right.